Questions?
Yes, sir. Colonel, please.
Oh, yeah. Oh, one thing I want to say, one thing I failed to say is that when we're done, we have Tony Peña with us. He's going to translate into Spanish, okay, what the answers and the questions are afterwards.
Thank you for doing this, and I do hope you stay here and take as many questions as possible. You say there were 19 officers gathered in the hallway or somewhere. What efforts were made to try and break through that door to say it was locked? What efforts were the officers making to try and break through either that door or another door to get inside that classroom?
None at that time.
Why?
The on-scene commander at the time believed that it had transitioned from an active shooter to a barricaded subject.
Sir, you have people who are alive, children who are calling 911 saying, please send the police. They are alive. In that classroom, there are lives that are at risk.
Hey, we're well aware of that.
Right, but
Yeah.
why was this decision made not to go in and rescue these children?
Again, you know, the on-scene commander considered it a barricaded subject and that there was time and there were no more children at risk. Obviously, you know, based upon the information we have, there were children in that classroom that were at risk, and it was, in fact, still an active shooter situation and not a barricaded subject.
Why was the door propped open?
I need to listen. The question simply is this: there's a 40-minute gap. And if the 911 operators were aware that children were alive in that classroom, why weren't officers notified of that? And if that's the case, why didn't they take action? That's the question. And again, I'll go back to the answer for right now, is that it was considered, okay, the decision was made on the scene. I wasn't there, but at the same point in time, you know, a decision was made that this was a barricaded subject situation. There was time to retrieve the keys and wait for a tactical team with the equipment to go ahead and breach the door and take on the subject at that point. That was the decision, that was the thought process at that particular point in time.
What can you tell parents that were here waiting and asking for the police to go in?
Did you apology for them?
Yeah, there was 19, like I said, there was 19 officers in there. In fact, there was plenty of officers to do whatever needed to be done, with one exception, is that the incident commander inside believed they needed more equipment and more officers to do a tactical breach at that point. That's why BORTAC was requested on the scene as soon as they were there. They executed a search, or at least a dynamic entry, and went in, and of course, that was not the 1257. With the benefit of hindsight, stand by, right? I got it. Okay. Hey, for the benefit of hindsight, where I'm sitting now, of course it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision. Period. There's no excuse for that. But again, I wasn't there, but I'm just telling you, from what we know, we believe there should have been an entry at that as soon as you can. Hey, when there's an active shooter, the rules change. It's no longer, okay, it's no longer a barricaded subject. We don't have time. You don't worry about outer perimeters. And by the way, Texas embraces active shooter training, active shooter certification, and that doctrine requires officers, we don't care what agency you're from, you don't have to have a leader on the scene. Every officer lines up, stacks up, goes and finds where those rounds are being fired at and keeps shooting until the subject is dead, period.
Francisco Villalobos from Televisa News, Mexico, sir. Obviously, because it's south of the border, it's very difficult to understand how the most powerful nation in the world, their citizens have access to so high-end weapons, and this keeps happening over and over and over again, and now again with children. I don't mean to want the night quarterback with you guys are the experts on people. Just have questions, please. How can you keep this from happening again in the communities of Texas? And second, how did a 18-year-old kid that works at a Wendy's making the minimum wage can buy a $5,000 weapon?
Well, answer the last. He used a debit card first, but to your point, it's very expensive, and a debit card is not a credit card. It means he had money in the bank. So why and how is being looked at right now, and I'll tell you this, hundreds of more, thousands of more leads are being looked at right now because we haven't answered all the questions. We haven't gotten into the why. Okay, we know the individual was also into cyber gaming in that regard, and group gaming in that regard. So we've got a lot of questions are out there, and we're seeking answers. But we've got an obligation. We'll continue to update you when we find something out. Hey,
a woman in the yes. The Border Patrol agents, the BORTAC agents that were in the building, did line up. They're part of the 19 that I talked about, and the entry team, ultimately the entry team that went in. But I can tell you that they were told, just as any other officer was told, and others, even command staff that came on board, is that the incident commander at the time was believed that in fact it was a barricaded subject, that we had time, there was no kids at risk.
Sir, who was the incident commander? Who was the incident commander? Which agency?
About having chats and group chats and talking to people. Why wasn't he on any radar? Nobody.
I wished he was. I wished he was, because then there's no question. And I'll say this right now: every time we have one of these, and there's copycats, okay? And we need the public, just like we did back in 2018. There was a public, okay, that came forward that we got 2 people that are about to shoot up a school or planted to shoot a school. It's imperative on the public, when you get something, just because the guy sounds like he's a nut, he may be a nut. But just because it sounds like, well, impossible to do, he may be intended to do, as I've read the timeline based upon the chats that he had. So we need everyone, when we have a threat to life like that, to take it seriously and report it. Because ultimately, this is tragic. What do you tell the parents of 19 kids, or the families of two teachers? Yeah. Hey, yes, sir.
Morgan Chesky, NBC News.
Yes, sir.
Once the link for tactical gear, by 12:15, you had at least 15 officers and shields on scene.
Yeah.
Yet you did not reach the door until 12:15.
Hey, like I've said it before, is that, well, first of all, when it comes to an active shooter, you don't have to wait on tactical gear. Plain and simple, you've got an obligation. What I know now, okay, absolutely, it was an active shooter, because you can transition. Keep in mind, in the doctrine, okay, of active shooters, you can transition from an active shooter situation to a barricaded subject, or a barricaded with hostage subject. But if shooting continues, and you have any reason to believe that there's individuals alive in there, you've got an obligation to move back to an active shooter posture, and that means everybody at the door.
Are you saying those children were no longer at risk when he barricaded himself?
Saying there were children alive in classroom 112, 8 to 9 children. Is that teacher, are those children still alive? And why was the school resource officer off campus? And did Uvalde SWAT respond to the scene?
Well, Uvalde has a part-time SWAT team, number one. The ISD's got, they have limited officers. I think, what is it? Well, they got 6. They got 6. Yeah, the Consolidated Independent School District has 6 officers, and they didn't have one posted at that location. And someone said, "Hey, what do you tell the parents?" I mean, bottom line is that, or someone talked about and said, when there's kids in the room, why wasn't there an entry? Because it was believed, like I said at the time, that the subject was stationary, barricaded, there was no risk to other children. Again, on retrospect, from where I'm sitting right now, clearly there was kids in the room. Clearly, okay, they're at risk. And oh, by the way, even when they go back to shooting, there may be kids that are injured, okay? They may have been shot but injured, and it's important for life-saving purposes to immediately get there and render aid.
Where was the resource officer? Why was he not on campus?
He was not on campus.
Why?
Well,
Where was he?
Again, we'll have all those answers down the road, okay?
Sir, did those callers survive?
Lady in the purple.
Hi, this is Univision Network, and thank you for doing this. Most of the community is Hispanic.
Yes.
A bunch of them are undocumented, and to them, in the world, you can apologize to all those parents who are outside screaming, trying to get in. It was obvious that it was not under control. Their help could have been great. Some parents were able to get their children out of the school, not as a police officer, not as somebody that belongs to the government, but as a parent, as a human being. What do you say to those parents who are about to bury their children?
Well, first I want to say that the Consolidated Independent School District officers were there early. There was 4 of them, and they immediately began evacuating the school and did that throughout the process. So keep in mind, so that was going on. And what do I say to the parents? I don't have anything to say to the parents other than what had happened. We're not here to defend what happened. We're here to report the facts so they have the facts.
But based on what
Hey, bottom line, the consultant.
Any of the family members gassed or taped outside the building?
I'm sorry? Oh, I don't have any information on that. Oh, one second though. However, we did review what DPS officers arrived on the scene, what they did, and looked at those instances.
You know the parents of the children who died are watching right now, and they're
Yes.
hearing you say that not everything that could possibly have been done as humanly fast as it could be done was done. Are they owed an apology from somebody, be it the incident commander in the police department here?
If I thought it would help, I'd apologize. But let me say this. Hey, let me say this. When you go back to the timeline, again, I want to go back and I'm not defending anything, but you go back to the timeline. There was a barrage. Hundreds of rounds were pumped in 4 minutes, okay, into those 2 classrooms. Then anything else, any firing afterwards was sporadic, and it was at the door. So the belief is that there may not be anybody living anymore, and that the subject is now trying to keep law enforcement at bay or entice them to come in to suicide by contact. I understand it. I've recorded that.
Don't yell over your colleagues, please.
Jack Morford from the New York Post. Can I ask 2 questions? First of all, exactly how was the gunman barricaded in his room? Was it just a simple matter of him locking the door behind him? And secondly, did he buy all 1,657 rounds from Oasis Outback using that debit card?
Well, I might answer the first one, but the why on the second one I don't have. The first one, that each door can lock from the inside, and both doors were locked, okay, from the inside. So the subject, when he went in, he locked the door. He came out one time into the hallway, went back in and locked the door, because at the time that the officers went in, both doors were locked. They got a key from the janitor and used it.
You said the first call came in inside the classroom at 12:03, and you reached it at 12:51. How many students died in those 48 minutes?
I don't have that answer. We're looking at it right now.
Hold on, man. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Questions. Adrian Broadus from CNN.
Yes.
1, why wasn't the school placed on lockdown? And 2, while this may be the most unpopular question here today, what is on your heart? How are you doing? You've been shaking the whole time you're there. Take your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You know, forget how I'm doing. What about the parents of those children? And forget about me or officers and stuff like that. We take an oath to uphold the law and protect people. And anytime something tragic like that, we want to know why it happened and if we can do better next time, is the bottom line. And call it like it is. It is tragic. Quite frankly, I mean, there shouldn't be anybody. Ideally, we've been able to identify this guy as a suspect and address it before he even thought about attacking, on the 24th.
Go ahead. Lawyer?
There's a lot of ammunition, a lot of rounds. Are there other people that you're looking at to arrest that aided him?
And we're looking at other people. Absolutely. Anybody who's been in contact, we're looking at anything. Links associations, people that may have known something, and will continue, and may have been involved in some chat room gaming along with them. So there's nobody that we're not going to talk to and look at. And it's certain, I can assure you that the district attorney is very proactive and very concerned about this, and that if any evidence that we bring to her that someone was an accomplice or an enabler or didn't do what they should have done, if it's in violation of the law and it meets the probable cause standards, I have no doubt that she'll take care of business like she did back in 2018 when we had 2 juveniles plot a capital murder at the school.
You had 911 calls at 12:10, 12:13,
Yes.
12:16. The shooter wasn't killed until 12:50. Did any of those 911 callers survive?
Yes. I can't tell you that with certainty, but more than one survived.
How many children got pulled out?
I'm sorry, what?
Give us an update on the number of officers injured, their condition, where they are now, and also were there any windows in the classroom that the officers shoot into?
Yes, the windows I'll go backwards. Right over here. I'll move over here. Subject shot into these windows right here as he's approaching the door. Right? So the children were vulnerable all the time going through. We don't have any recording of any of the children maybe injured but not dead when he shot into this particular area. Right? As to the answer in terms of someone could have shot opposite in that regard, I don't have the answer for that, quite frankly. Right? We're looking at a number of different things in terms of ballistics and things like that, what you can do. Keep in mind, when you've got children, in here.
Can you come back to the mic?
We've got children in
Bring
here.
the map closer.
Excuse me, yeah.
Bring the map closer to the mic.
Okay.
Be able to.
Right. And we're looking at this from a tactical standpoint and everything in terms of looking backwards, okay? And certainly one of the things is, what was the access in 111 and 112 in that regard? And and also, there's other access points as well.
Right there. Hold on.
Let me say one thing. One thing I didn't point out, okay, is that when we've got him going into these rooms, right here's the Jack and Jill restroom between. So not unlike Santa Fe, the classrooms are separated, but they're really connected. So you can move back and forth between those 2 classrooms.
In the green.
Yes, sir.
Was the incident commander receiving the information coming via the 911 calls? And if so, why not? And if so, you speak to the level of investigation that you're putting into that very question.
Yeah, that question will be answered, but I'm not going to share the information we have right now, because I don't have the detailed interview right now.
Go ahead, sir. Right there.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
If it was a barricade situation, did any police officers go in and get their own kids while the parents were outside?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Sir.
Right there. Go ahead.
Yes, please.
How many children called 911, and you know for a fact if any of those children died?
I know for 2, for certain did, and those 2 did not die.
And why was that propped open door still propped open even after the incident was occurring with shots being fired at the funeral home?
Bottom line is, we reported what happened. Is that back door was propped open. It wasn't supposed to be propped open. It was supposed to be locked. And certainly the teacher that went back for her cell phone, it propped it open again. So that was an access point that the subject used.
Do you believe that
Go ahead. Blue. Go ahead. Hold on.
Do you
you have said in hindsight mistakes were made. A Democratic congressman is now calling for the FBI to investigate the response here.
Yeah.
Is going to be held accountable?
Well, first of all, we welcome the FBI. There's a reason why there's the FBI special agent in charge behind me right now. They play a vital role. And again, this is about finding facts and reporting facts as quick as we can. It's not about trying to defend, or it's not about trying to assess or even be hypercritical. It's about the facts and sharing whatever we learn on the facts as quick as we can and be as transparent as we can. You know, okay, the media, but more importantly, the parents and the public and the citizens of Uvalde and Texas.
Hold on, sir, hold on.
Sir, who was the incident commander at that?
The chief of police of the Consolidated Independent School District is the incident commander.
And has that person been
It's his school. He's the chief of police. Okay.
Has he been
Was he on
suspended?
scene?
Yeah, again, I'm not going to discuss disciplinary. There's an ongoing criminal investigation. There's ongoing criminal investigation.
Is that teacher being investigated and working with
Again, I'm not going to get into that.
Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, Matt.
Which response was making that decision? Not to legal classroom. You see, he was here for
The chief of police of Consolidated Independent School District. He was convinced, and again, I'm going to go back and say, he was convinced at the time that there was no more threat to the children, and that the subject was barricaded, and that they had time to organize with the proper equipment to go in. The subject had already hit 3 officers, and hit 2 officers, and I didn't answer the final question. A third Border Patrol agent was grazed as well, but no police officer was seriously injured.
During that time, were the officers hearing shots fired inside that classroom during that time that you just discussed?
Yes, they did. He shot, and I went through the timeline before where he continued to shoot, and periodically, sporadically.
So while they're waiting outside for the proper equipment, they're still hearing
The last, I think I already gave you the timeline. I'm sure I went through it, but the last time that the shot right before the entry, okay, was he shot at 12:21. So
At the officers or at the children?
no, not at the children. Well, I'll tell you what, we don't know yet. We believe it was at the door, is what he fired at.
Right there.
What kind of equipment did law enforcement have in each specific moment of the response?
Okay, well, we know that beginning when the BORTAC agents arrived, they had 3 ballistic shields.
It's going to be the last question.
Last question.
The teacher that props open the door is she believed to have been
Right here, the teacher that
propped open the door is she?
Hold on.
The San Antonio fire chief said one of the kids died in the hospital. How many kids could have been saved had they been breached earlier?
I don't know. No, that's fine. Yeah, I'm going. Let's answer the question.
What do you think? You should have done like you did it?
I've already said that. I've already said. First of all, Texas embraces and teaches, the active shooter doctrine. The active shooter doctrine, as long as there's kids, as long as there's someone's firing, you go to the gun, you find them, you neutralize them, period. And there's only, there's some nuances with transition to a barricaded subject, also transitioning to a hostage situation. And of course, the decision at the scene was that this is still a barricaded subject that did not go back to an active shooter situation.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Where is the police chief, and why isn't he here to take our questions?
Well, because I'm here to address the latest timeline and facts that we know. You're certainly welcome to reach out to them.
I'd like to ask